Welcome. My name is Peter Strong. I'm a professional mindfulness-based counselor and therapist based in the USA, and I offer counseling via Skype worldwide. Wherever you may live, you can do Skype counseling with me as long as you have a good internet connection. So mindfulness-based counseling is a very different way for most people of working with emotions like anxiety and depression or addiction. The whole focus of mindfulness therapy in general is helping you work directly with your emotions. So emotions are what trigger everything, really. It's the emotions themselves that provide the fuel or the energy source that fuels reactive thinking, for example, excessive worrying, it might be catastrophic thinking or rumination. The reactive thinking is fueled by the underlying emotional energy of anxiety or depression, and beneath that really it's just fear itself. So working with that emotional energy is central, because that is what is necessary for the whole process that creates our emotional suffering. Reactive behaviors like addictions are also reactions to the underlying emotions. Depression, feeling helpless, the underlying sense of loneliness, whatever it may be, low self-esteem, and so on. These underlying emotions are what we need to work with, because they are what fuel addiction also. So in mindfulness work and therapy in general, what we learn to do is we learn to meditate on those emotions. Instead of ignoring them, instead of running away from them, instead of getting lost in reactive behaviors like addictions, we find the underlying emotion and we sit with it, we meditate on it, and build a conscious and friendly relationship with that underlying fear. This is the whole focus of mindfulness meditation. It is not about meditating on the breath or some other object. That in effect is simply another way of avoiding our emotional suffering. And the whole focus of mindfulness meditation, which is something that was developed by the Buddha 2,500 years ago, is to relieve emotional suffering. That is the object of all of the teachings of the Buddha. So this includes meditation, and that's why we meditate on our emotions, because anxiety and depression, or guilt or grief or loneliness, or feeling inadequate or feeling empty, these are all forms of emotional suffering, and we need to work on healing that suffering. And the best way to promote healing is to build a conscious and friendly relationship internally with your suffering. The best analogy for this process of mindfulness meditation on suffering would be thinking about the relationship of a parent to a child or baby. If the baby is crying, then what it needs more than anything else is the connection with its mother, to feel that connection. And that parent-child relationship is what helps the baby resolve its own suffering. It also helps because in the quality of that relationship, we will discover the cause of the baby's crying. We become much more aware when we develop a conscious and mindful connection with our emotions in the same way. So we learn how to hold our emotions in this conscious, non-judgmental, non-reactive space of awareness, and then we begin to explore ways of responding to those emotions directly that help them heal. The first is to develop a friendly and loving relationship with that fear, because when you bring love to fear, then the fear is able to heal and release itself. The primary problem is that we do not form this internal relationship. It gets fractured, so that the fear, the primary ingredient of both anxiety and depression, becomes isolated, disconnected from the rest of you. And in that isolated, disconnected condition, it simply becomes reactive, and that energy then feeds into layers and layers of reactivity, whether that's cognitive reactivity and rumination and catastrophic thinking, or negative thinking, or forming negative beliefs that are self-limiting, or whether it's behavioral reactivity like addictions or other forms of avoidance, or even reactivity in the body as well, somatic reactivity. These are all outlets, these are all ways that that energy has to escape, if you like, when it's not taken care of. So in order to prevent this process of reactivity, which then of course feeds the underlying emotional suffering, we need to build this conscious, friendly relationship. And if we don't have a friendly relationship with our fear or our anger or our feeling of helplessness or our grief, then it will not heal. So developing a friendly relationship internally is essential. And part of doing this means that we watch very carefully for those reactions of hatred towards our own emotions. So people do not like feeling fear, for example. So that's a reaction of aversion or hatred to the fear, which feeds it. So we watch for that. And when we see these secondary reactions, we learn to embrace them as well with mindfulness, with this compassionate quality of friendly consciousness. So with practice, we can begin to undo the internal habits that feed our emotional suffering and the reactive products of that suffering. And we can promote healing instead. So that's one part of mindfulness therapy, is building and re-establishing this internal relationship between what we call your true self, which is like the parent. It's really that space of conscious awareness itself that is able to contain and embrace suffering without suffering itself. It does not react. It simply embraces and holds suffering within it in a compassionate embrace, if you like. So that's one part of mindfulness, a very important part, probably the core of mindfulness training and mindfulness therapy, is developing this inside so that you are able to promote and facilitate healing. There are other aspects of mindfulness, which would include developing and cultivating the sense of your true self, that which does not suffer, of cultivating happiness, essentially, the state of well-being, which is our natural state. It's our default state. That's the nature of our true self. Its natural state is one of well-being, of equilibrium, of balance, and of happiness. The problem is we get pulled away from our true self identity, and we become captivated by the identity of our little self, the reactive habits of the conditioned mind. And when that happens, we lose our basic inherent happiness and we start to suffer. But the suffering points this out for us. It's functional. It shows us that we have gone away from our natural state into this unnatural state of the conditioned mind. So the suffering shows us that we've gone in the wrong direction. And if we then start to meditate on our suffering, it will start to re-establish your true self, the one that is able to be present and observe the anxiety or depression or fear or whatever it might be. So it's important to understand that your true self is always present. We just lose sight of it. And when we do meditation, we are re-establishing our identity as this loving, conscious presence that is by nature happy. This is the analogy here would be, again, with the mother and child or baby, that the baby may be crying, but the mother is actually experiencing a great deal of love and the joyfulness of that feeling of love when she is holding the baby and comforting it, rocking it, whatever she discovers through her own internal wisdom helps the baby to resolve its suffering. So that is an example where you can be happy actually observing your own suffering, but as the observer and not becoming lost in the suffering, not indulging in it, then you simply feed the suffering. But when you can observe it mindfully, you can actually experience a great deal of happiness. And that happiness, that fearlessness, is, of course, exactly what the little self, the fear, or the unhappiness needs in order to heal. It needs to reconnect with your true self. So this is just a part of the teachings on mindfulness for healing anxiety and depression and addiction and many other forms of emotional suffering. I will teach you how to do this, how to meditate on your emotions and bring about healing in great detail during our sessions together. So if this interests you, if you're looking for an alternative to conventional talk therapy, if you're looking for an alternative to medications, which of course do nothing to treat the underlying cause of your suffering, then please do contact me and let's schedule a therapy session. So I look forward to hearing from you and helping you learn how to apply mindfulness and meditation for promoting your well-being and happiness. Thank you.